Welcome to the Vision Profiles podcast. Join us dedicated Apple Vision Pro users as we dive into everything from hardware and software and apps to the latest updates in the Apple Vision Pro. I'm Marty, a faculty member at a Midwest University, podcaster, and Apple product fan.
And I'm Eric Bolden. I work in IT, but my interest is in finding ways to share content. Currently, photography of plants, birds, pits in the ground, and panoramic sequences.
I'm Daniel Burkholder, a software engineer and technologist currently immersed in generative AI and AR/VR technologies.
And Dave Ginsburg, I'm a podcaster for InTouch.iOS and a Vision Pro user.
And David's going to join us, I think, on a regular basis, or as we say, semi-regular, because you can't guarantee you're always going to be there, but is going to spend time with us like Daniel does. And so we have a nice panel. And that's good because it takes some of the heat off of me in terms of getting the show together. There's more people to comment on stuff. It's just a lot more fun that way. So before we get started, we're going to talk about some Apple Vision Pro news. There's not a lot out there. There's more articles about opinions about what's going to happen and less kind of factual stuff going on with changes in it. But we're going to talk about WWDC and what we think might happen at WWDC based on visionOS 3 and maybe if there's going to be any product related to Vision Pro announced and what our feelings are about all that stuff. But how was your week, guys? Anything amazing or new?
No, not really. Working on potentially rebuilding my podcast studio. We did some assessments here, so I'm looking to get a new desk and reassess everything. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's cool. That's very cool. Anything else new, Daniel?
I can't think of anything terribly interesting. I have my home AC fixed. That's not very interesting.
Yeah, but
that's
living in Florida, that's kind of a must. And Eric, anything new in the Northwoods?
Well, the black locust tree didn't kill me. I made it. Milwaukee Tools came out with this great new chainsaw, double battery, longer blade, and so I thought I should go find a tree to cut down. And it was good. It was interesting. It was good.
Was that the one that you tapped that you did the slow motion pollen depollinization?
That was a different one. That's why I'm cutting down trees because there's supposed to be a chicken house underneath that tree. And I was trying to decide if I could park other things under it or if it would get covered in pollen. And the test was positive for pollen. There's a lot.
It was frightening. And I sent back a message. I lived in South Carolina for, 10 years. And every time that, it's tons of pine trees. And this season, everything gets coated with pine pollen. So everything was a yellow dust. So when he sent that video of slow motion tapping the limb and all the pollen falling, it brought back traumatic experiences for me.
I thought I would do an immersive video, but then I thought every time I watched it, I'd start sneezing. So,
yeah, and if you did it with your Vision Pro headset, all that pollen would be sucked into your headset. Okay, so we're gonna talk later about predictions or what our thoughts are with WWDC. But let's spend a little time talking about the Surrender video. Bono's Stories of Surrender becomes a full-length feature immersive. And I don't know, I'll be honest with you, I haven't watched it. I had wanted to watch it, and I took my Vision Pro headset with me to Chicago. But you guys know that I had a stop off to do some medical stuff, and that kind of took up a day and was exhausting, so I never got a chance to see it yet. I did look at some of the reviews, and I don't want to spoil it necessarily with the reviews. I was real excited about it last week, particularly with that immersive bonus content. I don't know. You need to tell me if I should still be excited about it.
Well, it was a good movie. And Bono is, you have to be if you're a fan of U2 and Bono, I think he did a great job. He's a very good storyteller. So he did tell the story of his life, his struggles with his parents and all the things that, and he did it as a one-man show on stage. So he was, the band wasn't there. He had some accompanying musicians with him to play the music. I don't want to spoil it, but honestly, I was kind of disappointed. Though, I was hoping for some immersive video for it, and there was some, but nowhere near what we've been experiencing with all the other content that's been out there with all the short videos. I think it's just more of a feature-length movie. It really is. That's all I can say as far as it goes. I enjoyed it. It was slow at first, but as it picked up, playing the music, you get into it, and I enjoy U2. And Bono's a pretty amazing guy when it comes to as being a musician as he is, and a lot of his life story and his challenges with his parents and all those other things that he talked about during the session. So it was a good movie, but for us being Vision Pro users, I was disappointed. But it was because I didn't get to experience anything really anything immersive. A lot of the graphics, like we saw in the trailer, were there, and it was pretty much throughout the movie. And it had some points to the story. It had graphics of people that he would talk to and such. Again, I don't want to spoil it, but I think I saw the point of that being part of the movie, and that gave it some immersive view. But from what we've been seeing so far with the content prior to this movie, there wasn't anywhere near it.
Yeah, I guess I would have to first see it on the Vision Pro headset to see what parts were immersive. Then I'd be curious to see what translated, because the animation could easily translate to the Apple TV version of it, which is 2D for any other way to say it. It's non-spatial. So I'm wondering what parts moved over and what parts didn't move over. So it's like I'd have to watch it twice to make that decision.
Yeah.
But your concern about not wishing that there was more immersive video options in it, that was what I heard through the chats and through the chatter.
Yeah.
Eric, did you get a look at it?
Yeah. I really enjoyed it, but I was watching it more from the standpoint of every time there's new content that comes out, it's filmed a little bit differently. There's some different styles. There's different takes on how they do it. And the post-production artists that added the artwork and animation to this did an excellent job. I was also looking for kind of how they set up shots. And did you ever feel like you were watching something where all of a sudden the video with depth either made you sick or it wasn't quite right or your eyes just kind of were off kilter? And I found I didn't have any issues with any of the shots. Somebody went through them, they looked at and checked them, and the cuts were good, the shots were good, whether it was immersive or not immersive or that was artwork added in. I never had kind of queasiness. I never had any jitter. I didn't get cases where I felt like I was too close or too far away, even though they had some really close shots. They were careful not to have shots that were super close right in front of somebody. It was super close, like kind of at an angle or the side. So even when it seemed like you were right next to the person, almost uncomfortably close, but not staring right at them. So it was better than some of the other films where, it was kind of too much direct eye contact. There were several chapter shots. Can't think of the term they used, but there were breaks theme wise in sections. They had one section they did, and before they did the shots, there was footage where he's standing in front of a mirror, and then they're looking from behind him at the mirror, composing the shot using his distance to the mirror as the distance view that the camera should get later as a comfortable distance. And I had never actually thought of doing it that way. That's actually really kind of cool. So I'm looking forward to try some shots kind of where I get my distance based on if there was a mirror and the person was looking in the mirror comfortably, how far away are you? Because everybody's comfortable kind of looking
when
at a
you
mirror.
try that shot out, will you sing In the Name of Love?
No. No one needs that. No one's asked for that.
Daniel, I don't know if I think we talked pre-show that had you gotten to see this, or do you have any interest in it?
No, and frankly, not for me. I hadn't watched it.
Yeah, there is I thank whoever the group put this up, but there is a interesting article on Deadline, and we'll have the link for this, that really kind of gets into the narrative story of and what the story is about, and then combines it and talks about how this video came about and their interest in doing the video. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. And again, these links will be in the show notes for everything that we have and we talk about. We'll have links in the show notes, in the video version of the show notes, as well as in the podcast version of the show notes. So you can go back and take a look at it. I want to talk about another release because it had just come out. I think the last time we did a show, or maybe it hadn't come out yet. It was going to come out maybe the next day. No, it came out that day. I think I was the only one that took a look at parts of it. But it's the D-Day video that came out. We talked about it as an app, I think, in the last one. Did any of you, I know, David, you said that you got a chance to look at some of it. Eric,
some of it. I didn't get the whole thing.
Yeah. And Eric, you saw it. Daniel, I don't know if you took a look at this at all. It's a $5 app. I kind of think it's worth the $5 because just for ideas on how this medium could be used to tell stories in different ways. So yeah, I plunked down the $5 and spent it's 20 minutes. And, I don't think they're going to do updates on it because it's just a video. It's a story. Well, it's more than just a video. It's embedded video in frames sometimes with animation around it, sometimes with the animation kind of running on the wireframe of the room that you're in. So, I was doing it in my office, so it was rolling across my bookshelves and things like that. And then it has some points where you can interact with objects. So I made a comment, I think maybe it was on David's show last week, that it felt like the video game or the game called The Room, where Daniel, have you tried that? Have you tried The Room, I should say?
No.
Okay. The Room is a puzzle, and there's a whole series of them where you have to interact with puzzle boxes and other things to open up, and you have a puzzle to solve in order to move on to the next stage. And it's one of the few, I'm not a gamer, it's one of the few games I'll play because it's kind of three-dimensional. It's got a mystical kind of storyline, from the old mystics kind of theme to it. But there were elements of this D-Day that felt like to me, it felt like I was playing the Room game again. Eric, any reactions to it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. There are several different scenes that are kind of built out. I did hit some problems in that it's a little bit big to download. And if you pause, kind of get distracted, take the headset off, you end up kind of going back to the beginning. So you want to pick a time when you don't need to move and you can get through the 20 minutes, because otherwise you have to rewatch the same thing again and again. The thing I guess I enjoyed the most is they had pictures they were basing this off of. And then you would get kind of rendered scenes filling in the blanks that using artificial intelligence, or colorizing a black and white. But they always had the original picture in front of you that you could compare to whatever they generated. So you could see the two versions of it. And I just enjoyed that way of presenting it. the just generate content or colorize content, because you can. I always wonder how much you lose or how much gets changed. So being able to see the original print or the original video footage and then the section that they tweaked, I felt much better about the changes they had made. So yeah, it's well worth the $5.
Yeah, you mentioned in the earlier one with Bono video that they made some choices that were, I'm close, but I'm not too close. And we've talked about this with other immersive videos. There was a couple of scenes in here. It's like, I am too close, and this shot is sustained too long, particularly with the protagonist in it that's talking about her father. It's like, okay, I get it. It's rendered its emotional effect at this point. You can kind of pull back and show me some more film from World War II. I had the same reaction. I'm glad you brought that up, and I forgot to mention it previously when I talked about it. I had stopped it, or I had tried to do something with the app and closed it by accident, and then opened it back up. And it's like, I want to scroll this up to the point where I was at, and there was no way to be able to do that. So I had to sit through the first 5 or 10 minutes that I already seen again. So it was difficult in that way. So it was like hands off until they can tell you that you can pick stuff up. And even then, you want to be careful to not close the app, or you're going to wind up back at the beginning. So maybe we'll see an update that way, but I don't think we'll see an update in content. All right, let's move on. There's some rumors about next generation of Vision Pro and whether we're going to have a Vision Air. And this comes from a 9to5 Mac article. Here's what the rumors say about future generations of Vision Pro. Was there going to be a Vision Pro replacement? Well, yes. And then Vision Air. When is it going to happen if we're going to have a Vision Air version? It's a rumor from Bloomberg and Mark Gurman saying that Vision Air will most likely launch sometime in the late 2025 or early 2026. And we might have different colors than white, according to some drops. And then the idea of having glasses. And, because, again, Tim Cook is reportedly hell-bent on beating Meta. I personally would like to see WWDC. Tim used the words hell-bent. That's on my WWDC bingo card. And I think it should be a free space. If he uses it, everybody gets a free space of Tim saying hell bent. This article that was put together by 9to5 is kind of a collection of articles that occurred over the last couple of weeks. So we'll talk about this when we get to our section on WWDC, but essentially it's saying we're going to have a new Vision Pro 2 sometime. Then we're going to have a Vision Air sometime, but sometime between late fall this year and sometime next year, spring next year. And then glasses, who the hell knows? Maybe 2027 for glasses. Each of these will have different functions for the purpose of what they'll do. And those functions will have different capabilities in terms of what's on board for the device and what's not on board for the device. Any thoughts on this, guys, at this point?
Well, it's going to be hard to say where this goes. I agree with you on the glasses. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. Apple will take a long time before they're ready with that. I mean, that and I'm not surprised. Even though Tim Cook wants to beat Meta, I just don't see them being ready for this product. Yeah, Vision Pro 2, I could see that happening, but they're still sticking with the version we have right now. I think they've got to perfect it. We got to get some more app developers out there who want to develop more great content, and it's kind of lacking right now. I wish I'd see more, but it's getting better. But I would think that Apple needs to focus on that before they start worrying about other products. I mean, yeah, they put these in their buckets. They need to start thinking for the future. But let's get some better experience with the current device.
Yeah, I kind of think the only thing they're offering up for Vision Pro 2 is an M5.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they're saying that is going to impact it. And I'm not sure that in itself is important for them to create a whole new batch of devices in a pretty much same form factor versus looking at a different form factor. So I think it's third on the list. I think a Vision Pro 2 is maybe third on the list of what's going to happen, whereas Air, I think, is closer. Glasses are, I think, a separate product line, but I think they're working on it to kind of do a souped up Meta Glass version of Apple glasses. But I think Air's next, and then a 2, because they have to find some other justification than an M5. And there has to be a reason for putting an M5 in it that's not being handled right now. That would say, okay, we're going to put a lot of resources and a lot of hardware back into this current existing model just to stick an M5 in it. Daniel, you got thoughts?
Yeah, I think I've went on a little mini rant before about it, but I don't think. Well, one, we won't see any of this year. No way. Or even an announcement. I don't even think we would see even an announcement of any of these this year for sure. And I agree with David that they need to buff up the software, which I think that's going to be the main story about WWDC. Even just giving my little wish list here, it's like, oh, this is just all software. But I think, I think we can look at how they do all their other product lines, and they kind of always have the small, medium, large, right? So you got the Pro. I think there'll always be the big full-on headset, and the middle one would probably be like the Air. Probably, I don't agree with the idea of the Air maybe having a hardwired to a Mac kind of situation, maybe hardwired to a compute puck or something, or to your phone as compute would be cool. And then maybe just Apple Vision, just Vision standalone is their take on Meta Ray-Ban, which would eventually evolve to Apple's take on Orion. That's kind of how I look at it, because I'm just trying to fit in that small, medium, large bucket, which they pretty much do with all their other product lines.
Yeah. That's good. That's good thinking about it. I was thinking something similar. So if you're going to expand this product line, what would it look like compared to what Apple does with other product lines? Thinking of the iPad, thinking of the MacBook, stuff like that. So, Any other thoughts on this about rumors of future versions?
I think the M5 is more likely, partly just to reduce the heat load.
No, I don't think there are people jumping up and down and screaming about the heat load.
Double-edged sword too, because you'd be more tempted to want to push it as well. But maybe if they could put a beefier one in and then go fanless and throttle it, if that was your angle, then okay, that would be cool.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like there are cases where, like you have a virtual display to a Mac and then want to do one or two other things, and then you get a message about, well, you can pick one or the other, you can't do both. And it feels like if you put an M5 in there, because it's not all just bandwidth, if you put an M5 in there, maybe they could handle the virtual display and another model for subtitling at the same time.
Yeah.
It seems like they're pushing the limits of what you can do now. And depending on what I'm doing, I get moments where the headset gets pretty hot. So,
yeah, I mean, that is fair. It is known that it is nearly to its limit in terms of compute. So,
yeah, I agree, though, also with David that we got to get developers on board somehow. And this, I think, will be a non-sexy WWDC. In the sense of we're not going to see a product that will then be the hook within the press that they'll ride out from WWDC for those folks who aren't really interested in the software development but are interested in knowing what Apple's going to do. I don't know. I kind of think or hope they're going to drop something, because it was 2 years ago that they dropped Apple Vision Pro and it wasn't complete. And they couldn't say much about it, but it generated a lot of press. And that's and positive in general, and it distracted them from that thing over in the corner called Apple Intelligence. Well, it would this time about Apple Intelligence. So there's part of me that says maybe we'll see some hardware being hinted at through whatever they're doing in terms of development. And so, yeah, maybe they'll say this is going to be the lineup in the future and then let it sit, and not necessarily have to give many details, but get people excited about the potential for new products. And developers maybe will then see the value of taking whatever they give them in terms of APIs to work with and things like that within their own products, within their own software that they're developing. So who knows? But it will be interesting, and I will probably pay more attention to it than I ever have in past WWDCs, and we'll make sure that we have the report on at least what visionOS is talking about next with our show in our next episode next Monday. I don't want to, I'm looking at our time frame here, and I don't want to delve too much into extra news stories, but we have a few, and then we can get more into what to expect with WWDC. Daniel, I'm going to ask you about this because you're more in tune to other glasses than I am right now. This is Mac Observer article that came out on May 27th, and they really seem to be jamming on Apple in this article. Xreal delivers today, Apple promises tomorrow. Just some things that I think Xreal gets it right and where it beats Apple today. Android XR and Gemini head starts for Xreal. So what's your take on this, if I can ask you, put you on the spot?
Preface it by saying I haven't tried these products yet, to be fair. So it's mostly going off product marketing and what I've read online. So it's not really super fair. But my understanding, if I were to try to distill what I've read, you get what you pay for. But in the sense that it's not anywhere close to a Vision Pro or even what an Apple version on that kind of thing would be like. It's in the sense, like, how to say, you're paying like 1/20th of the price and getting 1/20th of the experience, and that's I don't think that's what somebody is hopefully looking for if they're looking.
Yeah, but they deliver 1/20th of the experience. They deliver 1/20th of the experience right now, and it's real.
That's true. That's true. And they do offer stuff that the Vision Pro doesn't. Like, you can get a little puck to hardwire in video inputs. Like, that's cool. I can't, plug my Nintendo Switch right into my glasses to play them on a plane. That's a wish list item for me for WWDC. But so it's really who's to say. I really should get my hands on them if I want to be more critical about them, honestly. But
yeah, I'm not. I drop down cash on a lot of stuff. I'm not ready to drop down cash on this. And if all of the reveals of what's going to happen to the Apple Vision Pro product line comes out, I'm going to be dropping significant coin on that stuff when it comes out. So I'm going to save myself from any Android or Google-based glasses if I can. I've already spent some money on Metas, and again, we'll see what happens. With any reactions, David or Eric, to these new sets of glasses?
I kind of agree with Daniel. I think this is just Apple's not going to be doing much of this with these glasses right now. I just don't see it.
Eric, anything? All right.
For people that want something on their eyeballs, this works. It's too early.
All right, let's then let me shift gears a little bit, and let's talk a little bit more about WWDC. I'd say the pro is that the articles that are coming out often lead with, at least the ones I'm finding. And David, you do In Touch with iOS on Thursday, so you're probably paying much more attention to the iOS stuff. And I'm trying to pay attention to the visionOS stuff. But they seem to lead with the fact that there is going to be this change in the design of the platform across all different iOSs. And they like to say, hey, they're taking this design components from Vision Pro. And so, again, if you're playing WWDC bingo and you're choosing your words, I would say Solarium is probably a good word to choose, because I think you're going to hear that described or used during or it might just be visionOS 26 from what we know.
Yeah, it's quite a big
thoughts, guys, about this inspiration, the Vision Pro inspiration. And David, I don't know if you're seeing it on the iOS side too, where they're talking about the platform and what it's going to look like. And Daniel, you're a developer, so I'm curious your thoughts on that, and Eric's thoughts too. Anybody jump in or don't.
I'm getting bad.
I mean, it's like kind of hard for me to talk about like I haven't seen I've seen some mock-ups and rumor leaks, and if they're true, it looks like it'll be nice, but it's hard to, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm hoping for more than just a coat of paint, and maybe that's why it's not really much in my mind. But I do think unifying the design language across the whole thing would be good, which could play into in some of my WWDC visionOS prediction items. A lot of them do revolve around improving the ecosystem as a whole, and a unified design language would certainly fall right into that too. So which is kind of why I'm leaning in that aspect of what we're going to see on the software front, because that could be a sign that they're going to do a lot more in the ecosystem.
Yeah, so it's not just a new coat of paint, it's that every room is going to be painted the same way with the same color scheme. I'll share an interesting article, and we'll, David or Eric, but an interesting article that came out of MacRumors, 6 visionOS-inspired design elements coming to iOS 26. And this is where, again, I'm sure David will talk more about this on In Touch with iOS on Thursday. But the idea of translucency, that's kind of a design feature coming from visionOS. Floating navigation bars and menus is another one. Rounded buttons. I'm not excited about going back to rounded buttons. But, and I think it's because Logitech makes keyboards that have rounded buttons, and I've tried them, and it just doesn't feel right, like a chiclet keyboard. So I feel like I'm going from a chiclet app to a rounded button app, and then that general glassy look that is part of it, and then lighting changes, and then making things very simple versus complicated. So it's interesting. The article suggests that these will be the kinds of things that visionOS does right now in terms of its platform that will be that we'll see in other platforms. Again, these articles will be attached to the show notes on the video. And also, what, Daniel?
Oh, sorry. I got 4 words on the redesign: Windows Vista and Futego Aero.
Okay, so explain that.
Well, I mean, come on, Windows Vista. I mean, are we not
Vista? That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, what is not to say? I love Windows Vista. Good operating system. And then Futego Aero, and I'm mispronouncing that, but Gen Z is going to be and Gen Z can be all over me about it. But it's that same translucent design language of around that time period, right? Where everything is kind of glassy, futury, transparenty, kind of a little more in tune with the world and nature. I'm just prepared for the flood of comments on how Apple's returning to this glorious design style again, and so I'm ready to see all the tweets and whatnot. But,
yeah, I mean, everything that is old is new again. So
yeah,
Eric pre-show. Yeah. Eric pre-show suggested that maybe what we need to do is do the next video when we do our report and have a translucent kind of screen over everything that we do, if this is truly going to be the design version that we see in the future.
Yeah, we'll do the frosted glass shadow puppet episode.
Yeah.
I mean,
boy, I've got a bunch of show names coming out of this episode already.
You do.
So I'll just go ahead, David.
I'm just gonna say I'll just go and make my comment about the redesign rumors. I think it's been overdue for quite a long time. They haven't done anything on the iOS side for quite some time. Really haven't seen some refreshes. It's been nothing too overly exciting. iPhone releases have been okay. I mean, the last couple models haven't been of any excitement. I think it's long overdue. In iOS, iPadoS, tvOS, watchOS, all of them need to see some fresh paint and refreshing it all. I think they are taking the big page out of the Vision Pro, because the Vision Pro has some pretty nifty ways that you get with the design of the OS. So I'm not surprised that they're going to. They just need to do some refreshing and get more excited. Besides the products, I mean, the new products will come. With rumors of different iPhones that are going to be coming out, different Macs, and all the other devices were overdue on an Apple TV. So I think starting with making a fresh coat of paint with the new OSs, I think, is a good start.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea that we'll have a unifying design for all different platforms. Will that unifying design allow us, will it have the same, I guess, menu structure, those kind of things from device to device? Or is the only thing we're looking at is the coat of paint, not what's behind it?
Yeah, I mean, look back to all the old versions of macOS. I mean, you go way back when, how it's evolved, the way it's changed, to its current iteration. I mean, they've done some changes, but it hasn't been drastic. It's been just way too long. You go back to Tiger, go look at and then start from there, working all your way around. And you saw some subtle refreshing to make it a little more modern, but nothing exciting.
Well, we have some articles on that I think we may have alluded to before. And it's a replication of some of the stuff that we've already talked about. There's an article that is from Cult of Mac that talks about Apple is already developing the iPhone replacement. And essentially, it's an article about Apple glasses and what their vision of Apple glasses is going to look like, and what it'll do in terms of being an iPhone replacement. So, and it does talk about the different directions that Apple smart glasses could go, with a pro version, if you want to say it there, an ultra version, and a kind of regular, simpler version of it. I don't know if I want to spend too much time on that, but it'll be linked in there. And then, we put in the Mac Show, this Mac Daily News talks about Apple's visionOS-inspired Solarium interface design coming to macOS, iOS, iPadOS, watchOS, and tvOS. So maybe the news coming out of WWDC is just look at our pretty new, the way in which we painted our rooms differently.
And plus, they want to take the focus away a little bit with AI. They know they had buttoned their face by the way Apple Intelligence turned out the way it did. There's lots of speculation about it, and that they're probably not going to. They may not touch much on it at all. With Siri being a problem and all the other things that Apple Intelligence had, and you obviously are going to be talking about it at MacStock with the AI, and it's. I think they want to pull that focus. They've been wanting to pull that focus over a while, and then now they're really pushing this to put it on the focus on more of an OS redesign than to have to dwell on their blunder with AI.
Yeah, I think they have to go head on with the AI stuff. I'm just, what is the thing that we're all talking about that they're not going to talk about at WWDC? It's, it's the elephant in the room that no one's talking about. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, and let's give the people who are elephant trainers or elephant care, let's give the stuff to the folks who are developers that can do something with it. I don't know. I would like them to go head on Apple Intelligence, or at least continually talk about, as they talk about whatever they're doing with the different OSs and how it's integrated. I mean, it's because everybody knows it's a thing. Everybody knows it's been a problem. And so to not talk about it feels like you're not paying attention, that there's egg on your face. So let's just go, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Any other thoughts on AI, Apple Intelligence, and what they'll do with it, even from a developer standpoint?
I feel like we
Uh,
gotta see something about app intents.
Yeah.
There has to be something about it,
Yeah.
and even some inkling towards agentic use of app intents. Like
Yeah.
there has to be something, right? I mean, agentic AI has been growing and growing. It's still growing, and it's more popular, becoming more popular. But I don't know. They gotta do something there. They gotta show progress on what that's going to be like and how they can start developing towards it on iOS apps. Just full
Yeah.
stop.
David, did you have something?
Yeah, it's just they have to get aggressive with this. I mean, Apple Intelligence is very important. I mean, me doing a lot of training classes at work with AI, and now I'm full tilt in the AI world. You know, with Chat GPT and Copilot are the two biggest ones I've been using now. So it's something that Apple has to get off their bandwagon. They got to get on the bandwagon here, and they got to get this pushed through. I know they're always wanting perfection when but there's been plenty of times that they've released things, and it kind of I can remember some music choices they made, music services that they made choices where there was a big blunder, and ended up discontinuing it. So they have to get on they got to get on their bandwagon here and got to get going and get this to the finish line here, because we have to have this working.
Yeah, Daniel, and I think you Daniel, I think you gave me an idea for my parts of my talk for MacStock, because there's been a lot of conversation in my field about AI use and agentic AI as kind of being the next piece. And it would be interesting. And I haven't heard with the other AI platforms much discussion about agentic AI. And Apple could very well lead in that. And I think the other platforms are tied into, this is an assumption, keeping the AI under their roof versus letting agents work outside of their roof to do the work. And I might be wrong with that. And Daniel, you can correct me on that. But I think Apple has an opportunity to get a foothold in agentic better than other AI platforms have or will be able to do, given the fact that they're not outsourcing parts of their work, their AI work, like Apple is doing with ChatGPT and potentially other services. I see your eyes moving.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I think they win in the sense that they have, every time you install an app, you've just downloaded like all the AI tools available to the device, right? Whereas like if you were working in an agentic system, like doing, like Claude or ChatGPT or anything, it's still going to have to reach out to different applications on the web, right? They're not on ChatGPT, their servers running, right?
Mhm.
And you have to set up integrations, APIs, MCP servers. Like you have to do all this stuff, or access to your file system or your code editor. In my case, where I use it the most, you have to hook all these things together or have something that brings them all together. And what does Apple have essentially for free? They have that all those hook-ins for free. And so every time you download an app, then it's like, oh, the phone's updated and here's all the new tools available from this new app you just downloaded. And then, descriptions or whatever. And then when you ask it to do a thing, it's going to say, oh, what are the tools available to me, and make the appropriate tool calls to the appropriate apps accordingly. That's where they can really win. Whereas that ecosystem, well, it will exist on Android at some point. It has to at some point. If it isn't going to sometimes. Doesn't exist as much on desktop land. Not that it couldn't. I just I think it would be a lot harder to get it working on desktop land as opposed to smartphone and tablet land.
Any final words on this, guys? Eric, I'd see you ready.
Yeah, if you're going to go through and then rework the whole interface and add nice frosty glass and all that kind of stuff, it also is a time to clean up all the accessibility kind of scripting and application to application interfaces. Basically, what Daniel was saying too. On the Vision Pro, there are a bunch of places where you can ask the S lady to do something like a screenshot or whatever, and it actually works. My hope is that carries over, and along with tweaking the interfaces and making them all look consistent, that it also gives better, more predictable control in all of the OSs, kind of in a similar way, so that once they start coming out with AI models, the rest of the interface is ready to interact with those models. Because I don't, even if Apple Intelligence was fully functional, I'm not sure that it has anything to talk to in the operating system, at least not consistently enough.
Yeah, you said a word. You said a dirty word. You said S lady. And
Yeah.
God, mine is Sheila. Well, you guys know that. Boy, is she stupid. Just a side note, I was driving today back from Illinois and crossing time zones. And Indiana has this weird, we don't know if we're going to be in the East or we're going to be in the West time zone thing. And I think they've settled that, but with all the times I made that trip, I don't know where that is. So I'm driving, has my location, obviously. The S lady knows where my location is. I just activated my S lady on my phone here. She knows where my location is because I have location services on. And so I asked the question, what time zone am I in? Because I couldn't figure out the clock change on my car, if it had happened or not happened. And she went ahead, and I think a simple question, kind of a contextual question, and she went ahead and redirected me to a wiki page on what time zones are. And I was like, oh.
I'm not a voice assistant fan. I never really have been, and I hope someday soon one of these makers of assistants will change that. But yeah, stories like that are not giving me much hope right now.
Yeah, so the idea of an integrated S lady with context that we have been promised, we'll see what happens out of WWDC with that. So let's go to just what our thoughts are, and we'll just round robin this. What do you think will be coming in visionOS 3? I'll call it out. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say there's been a lot of discussion about being able to launch apps with your eyes. I'm hoping I see that. That was one of the things that really did that. I'm also hoping to see more advancements with the Mac Virtual Display. Hoping to see more easier connections, potentially even having keyboards on a keyboard on the screen that you can do, just like we could do now when we're putting in a passcode.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. We do it with a keyboard.
Daniel,
those are two noble things. Yeah, thanks.
I have a lot of things, so I'm trying to look at my list and be reasonable here. More ecosystem plays, so better continuity. So like unlocking the iPhone, iPad, Mac while you have it on, just like the watch does with the Mac. Like low-hanging fruit, super simple technologies there. Being able to make and receive calls from your phone in the Vision Pro. Again, super simple, easy, low-hanging fruit. Maybe interact with the iPhone in the AVP. That'd be cool. I don't know. And then maybe, let's see, what else will I pick out of here? Oh, open up camera APIs to general developers, not just enterprise developers.
Eric, you now have been left with nothing to talk about. Maybe you have some ideas. We'll give you the first shot at the next question. Eric, what do you think? Anything to add to that list?
Yeah, because I think we'll get lots of shiny, distracting new interface things. Perhaps we'll get, our own selection of visionOS 26 frosted nail polish. And then I think they will share a bunch of visionOS things with other OSs.
I'm gonna go for better Windows management that will be able to do more controlling with the Windows and that we have as a potential for visionOS 3. SharePlay, I would love to see SharePlay more functional in visionOS 3. Oh, let's please do new personas. Every version has like a new persona update. I don't really care about that, but I suspect they'll be talking about personas as something new that they've done with it. We've already mentioned iPhone mirroring would be very cool. And David mentioned scroll with your eyes as a possibility. It would be nice if they had some native Apple apps included, it particularly map apps, although I don't know why you'd need a map app. It would encourage you to drive with it on your headset, on your head. But some native Apple maps that would, I don't know if it will be coming, but that's kind of on my wish list, that we would see some version of Apple apps specifically developed for the Vision Pro headset come out as part of OS 3. Okay, Eric, you get first shot at the next question. What will not be coming?
There will be no big Apple Intelligence stuff announced or talked about or pronounced, and we won't see it at all until end of March of 2026.
But what about Vision Pro? What will not be coming with Vision Pro?
So there won't be any Apple Intelligence. That's the big thing.
Oh,
I mean, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it'll be here. We get pieces of it." Yeah, they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to add anything. What you already have is there, other than shiny, distracting things. Now, for the next question, I have a lot, but there's a lot that just won't be there because they're just cleaning stuff up and moving it to other areas.
Daniel?
Can I have two?
Yeah.
This is out there. There's no rumor of it, but I know people would love it, and I would too. Native Steam VR support. That ain't gonna happen, but that would be awesome. Especially if they're the rumor of the Sony partnership and supporting their controllers natively, then, and maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll see Game New on stage. That would be insane. That would be an insane space on the Big O card. You're on the moon.
So, but you're saying we're not going to see Steam integration?
No, not natively.
Yeah.
And then my other is no new hardware, but I have a little asterisk on that, in that maybe black light seals and black cables for the battery, because we did see those black cable earlier, which I would like it because mine gets pretty dirty. And then the other asterisk on no new hardware is maybe a different developer strap could appear. What it would do, I don't know. But otherwise, I mean, no new hardware in terms of Vision real product SKU.
Yeah, one of the things you probably definitely won't see is any Windows or Android compatibility with Vision Pro. I wouldn't think I wouldn't even want it to be compatible, honestly. And full multi-user support is probably another one I'll just throw two here. It's not ready yet, and I would love to see it. I mean, I think multi-users. I mean, right now they did provide improvements with the guest access, because that was such a pain to have to set up with guest mode. And at least now you can have someone put the headset on, and you can at least view things without having to go through the whole setup. But I would like to see it being more native in user mode easily. But I think they're a bit of ways on that yet.
I don't know. I go back and forth with Daniel about no new hardware. I think they will announce something that's new hardware. I have a couple of ideas. I would love to see them say something about, in the 2-year anniversary of the announcement, I'd like to see them say something about Vision Pro Air. Even if they're like, this is where we're thinking of going with this. These are ways in which developers can contribute to the development of this Vision platform that we have, but not actual hardware. The other thing that I have been waiting for a long time, but everything I've read said it's probably not coming, is the Home Hub. And I see Home Hub as something different than just, I've got a place where I can turn my lights on and off. I see it as a working screen that you can mount on the wall, and it's interactive. An iPad on the wall in a sense, but maybe with its own platform. So I can watch movies, if I want to, from it, or if I'm in the kitchen, I can watch directions on how to cook, things like that. and also turn my lights on and off if so be it. I would love to see that, but I don't know. I think they've got to drop some lead to hardware, something to, again, push the press, because the press isn't going to be impressed with black cables for your Vision Pro. That's just not the kind of, look at how innovative Apple is. They're now giving us cables in different colors. They've got to have something else that's out front. It's not going to be Apple Intelligence at this point.
Yeah.
So I think, but what will not be coming, who knows? I'm optimistic that we'll see something to fire the press up and also fire the stock up a little bit. David, you got beginning on the last question. Anything you would like to see in the next visionOS 3, whether it comes or not?
I think I already said it. I mean, I still would like to see the eye controls where you can launch apps.
Well, I think they are going to release camera APIs, so that's not a wish.
Yeah.
Allow APIs to allow control palettes outside of immersive apps. So, like, I'm sure you guys use some apps where, like there's like a measuring tape one where you would hold your arm up and you have like a palette of like controls or change settings or whatnot. But the only way they can do that is in an immersive app. So imagining that in like a regular shared space app for different, I don't know exactly what either. Like maybe, I don't know. I mean, heck, even a little keyboard or a keypad virtually above my arm in certain scenarios for using certain tools would be convenient, other than, just kind of look over, hit like undo there if I'm doing something. But not immersive apps, right? Like that's the key. Like there's a lot of cool stuff being done, but they're all locked to those immersive apps, and you can't, you're stuck in that, which that's not very spatial computing.
Yeah. Okay. Eric.
Okay. I would like a virtual Mac display with a shared iPhone screen all at the same time. I don't care if the iPhone screen is on the Vision Pro or if it's shared with the Mac and then the Vision Pro gets to see it, but I want them all there at the same time. I don't want to have to pick and choose one or the other. I would like to have a virtual iPad display so that I can use the iPad keyboard and trackpad in the Vision Pro and remote in and control other stuff. I would like to have native iWorks apps. I want a native, and I'm not entirely sure exactly what I want in them, but I want them native to start. I would like a native Books app with eye-controlled page turning. And then I want improvements to sharing immersive images and video through iCloud and websites, so that when you take videos and you can see the videos, you can easily share them with other people without having to go through a third-party service. And then I would like to be able to have guest mode, have access to virtual Mac displays.
I want folders. That's all I really want. I want to be able to drop those apps, even if they're circular icons. I want to drop them into some arrangement that I have control over and that has meaning for me. So if I want to play a game, I go to the games folder. If I want to do productivity stuff, I go to the productivity folder. If I want to do I want to do relaxation, I go to the relaxation folder. I do not want to scroll through 10 to 11 pages of apps with no discernible order. At least they used to be in alphabetical order, with no discernible order for me to find the one app that I can't remember the name of, but I know what I want it to do. So I would like to see that. That's the only thing right now that comes to mind for me in terms of improvements, whether it comes or not with visionOS 3. Their app management system is terrible, and in some ways it's gotten worse. And if they want users to get lots of apps and do lots of things, and they want developers to be able to create an app that users will be easily able to find, they need to change something with their screen management system. And maybe that is a precursor to what's going to happen with other OS platforms. that it's not just going to be a dump load of apps on the screen, but there'll be some type of organizational means in which people can access those apps on tvOS or iPadoS or whatever. So I really wish that would happen. I hope that moves into the will be. That moves into the first question of what will be coming with visionOS 3. I haven't seen anybody talk about that other than myself. So, and then I want Pixies to come to the foot of my bed and give me sugary candy on a regular. That's my wish list.
Yeah, but that part works now. I love that. They're little maple sugar candies in the shape of a leaf. That's great.
Eric, I love you. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell this story here, and I'll tell this story again. We're going to probably skip over apps for today. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're there. We'll bring them up maybe next week, depending on, I think all we'll talk about is WWDC. But we're going to hold off on apps because of time. But Eric, I shot him a selfie when I was in the hospital, and I said, go to Chicago and get yourself some AFib. And Eric texted back, maybe you should plan a little less to do on your trips, meaning skip the hospital the next time. So it was the first laugh, as I said, I've gotten in 24 hours, that I had been there. So all of that's good and fine, but I really appreciate your sense of humor and, the ways over the last 56 episodes we've been able to work together. And Daniel, it's great to have you part of this group. I mean, just the kinds of contributions you made tonight about understanding the platform and what can be done and that. And David's he's got the whole kind of wide picture of what's going on. So I'm really proud of the group that we have here tonight. And thank you for your contributions with it. But I think it's time to end the show. And we're going to do that by reminding you MacStock. Daniel, we really want you to come to MacStock, but we know you've got stuff going on and it is difficult for you to be able to come this year. But MacStock Conference and Expo.com occurs in North Central Illinois in Crystal Lake near Woodstock, Illinois, hence the name MacStock. It's been going on. This is their 9th. Is it 9th or 10th? I know it's 9th officially, but they kind of had a non-numbered one. Yeah.
It's really officially 10. It started in 2015.
Yeah. And I know David's been at all of them. I've been, I think, at 9 of them, both the virtual and the in-person ones. And Eric, you've been going for years too, right? How many? Maybe 4 or 5?
At least a few. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we'll all be there. David's presenting. I'm presenting. I'm also doing another presentation with my son. There's a whole list of great presenters. Just go to MacStockConferenceandExpo.com. And Mike Potter, who organizes the whole thing, is putting more information up in terms of hotels, in terms of speakers and speaker bios and what they're going to be talking about. You can get $50 off if you come in person and you buy a pass to be in person. You can get $50 off with the code PodTalk50. And David also has one. What, In Touch 50?
In Touch 50 for In Touch with iOS.
Yeah, if you want to. And it's just great. I mean, Mike does that for us, and we do it by letting people know that the conference is there. It's great, and give you an opportunity to have $50 off whatever code you have. It's the important is that he's making that available to you. So join us at MacStock. At least take a look at MacStockConferenceandExpo.com. They will have virtual passes, which will be about 30 days after the conference. You'll be able to get all of the videos streamed and all of the content that was at the conference if you can't make it in person at a very reduced price, around $100 for 3 days of material and information that's new and up to date. It's fun. It's a great deal of fun to be at the conference. Even if you get the virtual pass, you'll get that sense that people are having fun there. And it'll make you want to be there next year just to kind of be part of the group. So MacStockConferenceandExpo.com is the link for that. David, where else can we find you?
Yep. My website, intouchwithios.com, is where you can find me for the podcast. YouTube.com/intouchwithios is the YouTube channel. I'm on Mac Voices Live with Chuck Joyner on every Tuesday night with these two gentlemen, Marty and Eric, and many others that can join us. I'm on the Mac Show on British Tech Network on Fridays usually. Hang out. We're going to do Keynote Bingo and this will be Marty's first time if he makes it to do that with us. And you can also find me on social media. I'm at Blue Sky and Mastodon, most places where I go. It's at Dave G65. Thanks for having me, Marty.
Yeah, and Dave's going to join us on a regular basis and be a contributor as part of the team here with us, and that's good to hear because we've got plenty of window space for folks to join us on the live video. You got to watch us on the live feed, even if you've heard us on the podcast. Come back and see what these freaky people look like on the live feed on YouTube.com @visionprofiles is the link /@visionprofiles is the link to our site on YouTube. Daniel, exciting things you're up to. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
I don't have any place to find me. I'm not active on the socials, but now I feel so left out. I think I'm going to make a Blue Sky after this.
Okay. All right. Well, next time we have you might or might not be on Blue Sky. Let's just put it that way. I hope you are. And just so people can connect with you. Yeah, we'll follow you. Don't worry about that. And I'll send you dad jokes. How's that? Eric, where can we find
Marty GPT?
Oh, I like that. Marty GPT.
My daughter was asking me a bunch of questions and I texted back to her, I'm Dad GPT. So, Eric, where can we find you?
I can be found on Mastodon at EA Bolden at techhub.social or EA Bolden at Blue Sky. Otherwise, visionOS on Vision Profiles on Mondays, macOS on Mac Voices on Tuesdays, and iOS, iPadoS, Vision, all the iOS-y things on Thursdays with Dave.
And again, great to have you as starting this thing off with me 56 episodes ago. We're going to probably do some live recording at MacStock. I know Dave's doing one, and maybe Eric and I will try to do one. The problem is not the recording. The problem is getting the Wi-Fi to get it out. And so we might do a live one and drop it as soon as we can when we're at MacStock coming up in July 11th, 12th, and 13th. And we're also going to have a Vision Pro time at MacStock. And just before I left, Mike gave me some options and I need to respond to him about a meeting time that we can do with visionOS. I think it's going to be Saturday before Mac Geek Gab does their live. I've got to go back and look at it to see what slot's going to work. He said, or Sunday, but I think everybody's taken off Sunday. At least I know I am. As soon as the conference is over, I'll drive back to Ohio. You can find me at Gensius at bluesky.com or Gensius, Gensius, at mastodon.social. Here, of course, on Mondays with this gang. Tuesdays on Mac Voices at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Also live streamed with Chuck Joyner. Thursdays on Dave Ginsburg's show, In Touch with iOS, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live streamed. Fridays on the Mac Show at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on the British Tech Network on days that I can make it and they don't make me come to work. And then other projects, other podcasts I'm doing, look at the podtalk.net for the different podcasts that I produce and am part of. So I hope you take a look at that. We want to thank you for tuning in for the show, and we'd love to hear from our listeners. So if you have something or want to join an episode, there's space for you. We can fit you in. Just email us at visionprofilspodcast@gmail.com. Our bumper music is Free Jazzy by Steve Combs, courtesy of the Free Music Archive. You can learn more about us at thepodtalk.net. Spread the word to other visionaries. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.